So today I'll be talking about my top 10 albums of 1995. I've also done top 10 lists for some other years like 1997 and 1994, and I'm pretty sure I've done some other ones too. But again, for this video, we'll be talking about 1995, and these 10 albums will be in no particular order, but the first album I do want to talk about, which I definitely knew would be in my top 10, 311's self-titled / Blue album. Really dig this album a lot. I feel like this album is one of the band's best. Probably my second favorite. Yeah, probably my second favorite 311 album. I mean, Transistor is still at the top for me. I love Transistor, but Blue album is probably my second favorite. I mean, of course, you have some of their biggest songs on here, like All Mixed Up and Down, but I feel like you get some of the band's best deep cuts in this album, like Jack-O-Lantern's Weather and Purpose and Misdirected Hostility. But yeah. Always loved 311. I've always really dug their mix of rock, reggae, and rap, and this album is definitely no exception. Again, definitely one of the band's best, and definitely had to make my list here. But yeah, moving on, we are moving to one of the biggest names in the world of grunge, and that band is Alice in Chains. We are talking about their self-titled album. Now, when it comes to Alice in Chains, Facelift is actually my favorite. I know a lot of people point to Dirt as their favorite or as the best one, but for me, Facelift has always been at the top for me, my number one for Alice in Chains. But self-titled is also pretty good too. This is an album that definitely has many names, but yeah, I have a version that has the green and the purple jewel case. Yeah, so many Alice in Chains classics on here, like Heaven Beside You and Grind and Again. But yeah, I have other really great songs in here, like Sludge Factory, which is honestly one of my favorite Alice in Chains songs. Nothing Song is probably another one of my favorites on the album, and definitely one of my favorites when it comes to the second half too. Frogs is also another standout in the second half. So yeah, definitely another really great album from Alice in Chains. But yeah, that would be their final album with Lane. But moving into something a bit heavier, we'll be moving into the world of melodic death metal, or melodeath. Talking about Out the Gates with Slaughter of the Soul. Often considered their best, and I definitely would agree with that. I mean, Terminal Spirit Disease and The Nightmare Being, those two albums kind of fight for being my second favorite, but this album's definitely iconic for a reason. Definitely a landmark album when it comes to the world of metal, and highly influential too. Without this album, you wouldn't have many bands that came out in the 2000s, or late 90s / early 2000s. Bands like Trivium and Unearth and Shadows Fall, and of course many other metalcore bands that came out back during that time. But yeah, and of course, All That Remains too. But yeah, Slaughter of the Soul, definitely iconic for a reason. Really great album. And yeah, I mean, of course, the big song on here is Blinded by Fear, which opens up the album. Title track is another classic off of here, another song that I think is one of the band's best. And then you have Cold, which is probably a top 5 at the gate song for me. I absolutely love that song. Suicide Nation, moving towards the deep cuts, probably that song is definitely one of my favorites. I also like World of Lies and Unto Others, but you really can't go on with any of the songs off this album. Definitely a metal classic from the 90s, really good stuff. But moving into one of the OGs of death metal, we'll be talking about Death with their album Symbolic. Really good stuff. I mean, Individual Thought Patterns and Leprosy are pretty much my favorites from Death, but this album would probably be my third favorite. I mean, of course, the big song on here is Crystal Mountain, but you have other really great songs on here like the title track Symbolic, Zero Tolerance, and Misanthrope. Those are some of my other favorites. Thousand Lies is probably another standout for me on the album, and to me, one of Death's best songs. A tad underrated, but I really like Thousand Lies, or not Thousand Lies, Thousand Eyes. And of course, yeah, Crystal Mountain, of course, another standout, and also one of their best songs too. But yeah, rest in peace, Chuck Schuldiner. Really great album. But now we're moving into one of the early bands in the world of nu metal. Of course, they would go on to go beyond that label later on, but we'll be talking about Deftones with Adrenaline. I, st- when it comes to ranking the Deftones albums, you definitely get a variety of opinions on this album. For some people, this is one of their weakest or their weakest, while some others view this one as one of their favorites or as one of their best. For me, this album lands more towards the middle, if I remember correctly. I've ranked their albums like once or twice, and I think I have this album more towards the middle at the moment. But either way, to me, I really dig this album a lot. I mean, this is maybe their heaviest, or at least a contender for maybe being their heaviest. I mean, of course, Bored and 7 Words are the bigger songs on here. But you move towards the lesser known songs, you definitely get your share of bangers like Nosebleed and Root. Engine Number 9 is another standout in the album too, another fan favorite off of here. I really like Mine is Blindfold. That's an underrated song off of here. Birthmark is a song I've grown to appreciate more and more with time. That's another really great song off of here. Yeah, really dig Adrenaline. I do seem to enjoy this album more than some people. I mean, again, I know some people have it lower in the rankings when it comes to ranking Deftones, which personally I really disagree with. Again, Adrenaline to me, really great album. But next, we'll be going to Down with their album Nola. So yeah, this is this copy is for promotional use only. And when it comes to supergroups, this might be my favorite album in general. When it comes to an album made by a supergroup, this one might be right at the top for me. I mean, of course, you have other ones like Mad Season and Temple of the Dog, and of course many others, Saint Asonia. But I think out of all the supergroups that I'm into, Down's probably my favorite, and this is definitely easily my favorite album from them. I mean, Down 2 and Down 3 are great too, but Nola will always be at the top for me. I mean, absolutely love this album. I mean, some of the highlights on here being Temptations, Wings, Lifer, which has some pretty killer riffs. I mean, you got Pepper from Corrosion of Conformity on here, so you really can't go wrong when it comes to the riff department. Rehab is another song that's always been one of my personal favorites. One of the deeper cuts, but I really like that song a lot. Of course, the big song on here is Stone the Crow, and definitely was one of the bigger songs on here for a reason. I especially dig those heavy riffs that you get towards the end of the song. But yeah, absolutely love Stone the Crow. Eyes of the South is a song that I've grown to appreciate more and more over time. That's going to be one of my favorites on the album. And of course, another fan favorite off of here is Bury Me in Smoke, which is definitely one of the band's best, I'd say. Swan Song is a song that might have some of my favorite riffs on the album, maybe. Rhythmically and riff-wise, I've always really dug Swan Song. But yeah, you really can't go wrong with any of the songs off this album. Definitely a classic for sure. And definitely a pretty killer lineup too. I mean, you got Phil and Selmo, you got Kirk from Crowbar, and you got Pepper from Corrosion of Conformity. I mean, you just can't go wrong with that lineup there. Definitely a pretty killer supergroup. But moving on, we're moving to Faith No More with King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. This is one of my favorites. I mean, Angel Dust is at the top for me when it comes to Faith No More. That album is one of my favorite albums of all time. But The Real Thing and this album kind of fight for being my second favorite. Two very different albums, but I don't know. I've always really dug this album a lot. I mean, with this album being 14 tracks, I feel like this album has really no filler. I mean, I've always felt that The Last to Know and Take This Bottle have always been kind of the weakest songs on here, but even those songs, but that's not really saying much though, because I still think those songs are still decent though. But this album pretty much mixes multiple styles, and for me it works. I mean, Faith No More is one of those bands that never really repeats themselves with their albums, and this album's definitely no exception. Definitely a unique album in their discography. This album also sounds a bit darker, and this is, of course, the first album without Jim Martin on guitar. This time you have Trey from Mr. Bungle, if I got the right person right. But yeah, love this album. Evidence, to me, is one of their best singles, and also one of my favorite Faith No More songs. Star AD is another one of my favorites off of here. I do dig the heavier songs on here, like Cuckoo for Kaka and Ugly in the Morning. But I do like the more melodic cuts on here, like, again, Evidence and track number 7, Corallo, Vodor, however you pronounce that. I really like that one. Just a Man's also pretty good, and I think the title track is another standout, especially when it comes to the second half. Yeah, really good, really great album. If you haven't heard this album, definitely check it out. And now we're moving into the world of industrial metal, Demanufactured by Fear Factory. Love this album. This is an album that I knew right from the start of having the idea for this video, that I knew this would definitely crack my top 10 easily. I mean, this is also, of course, my favorite Fear Factory album. When it comes to picking a favorite Fear Factory album, people usually either pick this one or Obsolete. For me, I lean more towards Demanufactured. Obsolete, of course, also being great too. That would be my second favorite. But yeah, Demanufactured, this album is definitely banger by banger, killer just from front to back. I mean, of course, you really can't go wrong with those first 5 songs, especially, which are some of their most well-known songs, especially the first 4, with, of course, the title track, Demanufacture, Self-Bias Resistor, and, of course, Zero Signal, which is, of course, on the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. And then, of course, you have the song Replica, which is one of their biggest songs, and that was the song that got me hooked onto this band. I really like New Breed. That song definitely goes hard, especially. I also like the use of electronic elements in that song, especially, or the industrial element in that song. HK Hunter Killer is definitely, actually might be my favorite when it comes to the second half of the album. I mean, Piss Christ is really good too. That would be in close second, but Hunter Killer might be my favorite when it comes to the second half of the album, and honestly one of my favorite songs in general on this album. So yeah, really great album. Definitely an album I had to mention here. But next, we'll be moving to Garbage with their self-titled album. I guess you can maybe say this leans more towards alternative rock. I don't know if I'd say grunge. I don't know if I'd go that far, but maybe alternative rock. I mean, this is another band that you could say experiments a little bit with sounds and stuff like that, and definitely do it very well. But I always, all this time later, I still think this album is their best. I mean, version 2.0 is great too, and I do also like their third album and their fourth album. I'm personally not too big on modern Garbage, the stuff that they've done since their return. Personally, not too big on it. Although I will say their most recent album is probably the best of their more recent stuff, but that's still not saying a whole lot either, because it's still not something I find myself going back to very often either. But at the end of the day, I still think this is their best album. I mean, of course, you have some of their biggest songs on here, like Only Happy When It Rains, of course, and Stupid Girl. But yes, the album opens up with, to me, their best album opener, and that song is, of course, Super Vixen. Queer, I think, is one of their best singles. I really like that song a lot, especially musically. And then the album Closer Milk, it's definitely, to me, has one of Shirley Mance's best vocal performances really ever. I love her vocals in that song. You move towards the deeper cuts. I really like Not My Idea and Fix Me Now. But yeah, definitely a really strong debut album. Maybe one of the best debut rock albums of the 90s, honestly. Really good stuff. But before I get to the last album here, again, these albums are in no particular order, but before I get to the last album here, I do want to mention a couple honorable mentions. My first honorable mention, Ugly by Life of Agony. So this band does get lumped into the New York hardcore scene, along with bands like Biohazard and Madball and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, you can lump their first album with that label, but Life of Agony is definitely another band, kind of like with Faith No More, that doesn't really repeat themselves with their albums. I mean, with this album, they definitely stray away from the New York hardcore sound, and this album's a bit darker, but still heavy, of course. But I really dig this album a lot. To me, one of their best, and probably my second favorite from them. Of course, River Runs Red is at the top. One of the greatest concept albums, maybe in metal or rock, whether rock or metal. Personally, I'm kind of in the middle on that. I can go either way on that. But my other honorable mention is Rammstein with Herzeleid. Hopefully, I pronounced it at least decently. But their first album has always been one of my favorites from the band. Probably my second favorite, Butter being at the top, but Rammstein's debut album, definitely an album I had to mention at least at some point in this video. But yeah, these are definitely two honorable mentions, two albums I definitely wanted to mention here. But let's go ahead and talk about the last album here in my top 10. Ministry, Filth Pig. So with this album, you get a bit more sludge. The songs are a bit more slower paced. You don't get as much, I guess, speed or thrash, you could say, on this album, which for some people is a red flag. But personally, I dig the more sludgy sound or more sludgy direction in this album. I feel like this is one of the band's best. I put it up there with some of their other greatest albums, like Psalm 69, of course, and The Mind Is a Terrible Thing to Taste, and Land of Rape and Honey. But yeah, I absolutely love this album. I mean, it starts out really strong with those first 4 songs, especially with Reload, Filth Pig, Lava. I really like Crumbs. I think that song is a tad underrated. Riff-wise, I really dig that song a lot, especially. And then Game Show, I think it has to be one of their most underrated songs. I really like that song a lot. I don't mind the cover song on here. Probably one of my favorites when it comes to the second half. It isn't one of my favorite Ministry songs in general. Personally, I wouldn't go that far, but still a decent cover though. But yeah, I think this is one of Ministry's best. Really great stuff. But yeah, that is my top 10 albums of 1995. Let me know your thoughts on my top 10 in the comment section below. And of course, let me know your top 10 albums of 1995 in the comment section below too. And all that good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and a like, subscribe. Have a nice day and take care.